All right, good evening, everybody. This is the first installment of a little series we're going to call the Unity Experience. My name's Chad, and I am a Baha'i in Richmond, Indiana. And with me today, I have Susan Engle. She is a fantastic lady, children's author, you name it, she's done it. She has tiny dolls. Can't wait for you to meet her and find out all about her. She is wonderful. Um, so we figured that with all this COVID-19 business going on, that it would be a good thing for us to get to know each other a little better, cross some bridges and boundaries, reach out to all of us, that may not have anybody to talk to right now, be able to talk Baha'i things, be able to talk not Baha'i things, be able to talk about toilet paper, be able to talk about, every all those things that everybody needs to talk about right now. There's a lot going on in the world. Even though as Baha'is we don't really participate in the partisan side of things, there's plenty of things that we can talk about that um, do deeply impact our lives, and that we can still get some meaning from besides just in your face join our cult kind of kind of a thing. So at this time, I'll go ahead and introduce you all to Miss Susan Engle, and here is Susan. So uh, there's Susan. There she is.
Hello.
So Susan, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit, start about maybe how you became a Baha'i, why you became a Baha'i, what you love about being a Baha'i, things like that.
Well, thanks. This is the 49th anniversary of actually my becoming a Baha'i. I was in college. I always wanted to be a nun when I was growing up. And you could be in the Episcopal Church. They even had nuns in full habits, and, they were still teaching school. But the priest who was sort of coaching me or, encouraging me, said to me, Susan, you know that the Episcopalians are on the right hand of God. And I thought, wait a minute, you mean all by themselves? That was a little, I didn't believe that in my heart. That didn't speak truth to me. So when I went to college, I was open to mm, talking to all kinds of people. And I had a fellow student came to university. He was very interesting, very, he read Plato in attics and painted in the opera house. And he was just a thinker. And, but he didn't last too long because he didn't go to class. So he went to California to find his passion, and he ran into the Baha'i faith. And when he came back through school that April, we stayed up all night reading from Baha'u'llah's words, from the cleanings, from the prayer book, and I thought it was very attractive. But then he left, went back home. He wasn't in school anymore. So it wasn't until a year later that I went to New York. He was in Scarsdale or in White Plains. And I went to work at the Metropolitan Opera as an apprentice. And somehow, I don't know how to this day, I was living with three other women in an apartment. There was one phone under someone else's name, and somehow he found the number and called and said, come out and visit. And I said, okay, and got on the train. And when he met me in White Plains, he had an orange and a rose, and he took me to his home, and I met his parents and his brothers, and then he started telling me more about the faith, and I learned about the history and about the Bab who came before Baha'u'llah, who was also a messenger of God. And I was enthralled again by the history and the Baha'i community. At that time in White Plains, there were a lot of youth, a lot of Baha'i youth, and we all sang together, and it was lovely. So on Easter Eve, I decided, April 11th, 1971, I decided to become a Baha'i, and went to church the next day. And really wanted to just stand up and say, Christ has come again. I didn't do that because I'm very shy and usually, but it was an interesting experience. I was so happy to have found this amazing faith that so few people had heard about in this country anyway. And it's been 49 years and I don't regret a day of it. I'm very happy.
So what sort of things have you been able to do in your 49 years as a Baha'i? What are some of your key experiences besides the day to day? Because I know what it's like, that day to day joy that you feel. But what are those key moments that you will just really treasure and hold on to?
Hmm. Well, in 1976, my husband at the time and I went to Haifa, Israel on pilgrimage. And I've always been a singer, and I really wanted to find a way to serve the Baha'i faith with music. You know, and I didn't quite know how that would happen. So I said a special prayer there, and on the way home from Israel, I stopped by some friend's house, and the wife said to me, "Why don't you write music for children?" And I thought, well, that sounds good. I've never done that before. I had to. I have twin girls who at that time were 3 years old. So suddenly, you know, after she said that, music began to come to me. I sat down and worked on some songs, and voila, worked on my first project for children and families, uh, music called "Come and Sing." And in the olden days, of course, you know, they did albums. Oops. And there it is, the first album in 1980 of children's music. So that was a pretty exciting time, you know, discovering.
Show it a little bigger if you'd like.
Oh, bigger? He is a painting. Oh, come and sing.
It's tiny now.
There we go. Okay, come and sing. Isn't that sweet?
That's beautiful. Yeah.
So, you know, it didn't stay very long because pretty soon tapes came along and then CDs. So in modern times, this is Come and Sing Today. And there have been these as well for children. That was the beginning of a whole new phase of my life that I'd never tried before. It was wonderful. And then in the late 70s, there's a children's magazine called Brilliant Star, and I began to write poetry for them, volunteer, you know, just submitting poetry for the magazine. And I'd be happy to read one if you want a poem. Would you like a poem? Are you there?
So, we got cut off there for a moment.
Yeah.
Thing we don't have an audience, huh?
Oh, someone joined in?
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Good thing we didn't have an audience, I guess.
Well,
But you were saying that something you didn't expect to happen.
oh, right. Well, the music for children never entered my head as, you know, until then. And all of a sudden it became real. So things like that keep happening for me. And I'm very grateful. I've always loved poetry, but I didn't write poetry for children until I became a Baha'i. And now I have a website with lots of poems that people can just download and use if they want to. It's called Iambic Nana, as in iambic pentameter, but one of my granddaughters named it for me. And
I had it up here for you, ready to go as well.
what's it? The website.
I was going to surprise you
Oh,
with one of my favorite poems of yours.
What?
Um, let me find it here. It's I'll pull it up on the page and then I'll put it on screen so everyone can see it. Um, because I actually found out when you introduced me to the tiny books, which I think are fantastic. I actually carry the prayer book and the tiny Baha'i book in my wallet. It's can't be too far. It's right here. Look, it fits perfectly in my wallet. I have that one in my wallet,
Oh,
and
nice.
then I have my the prayer book on the other side here. So I carry them with me everywhere. It's
Wow, me too.
very helpful in the hospital last week.
Oh, good.
Back to iambic Nana. I glad you brought that up because I was going to surprise you and share with you my favorite poem.
Oh, good.
Uh, let's see. Let me see if I can find it. You can go ahead while I search for it. But
Oh, go ahead. Oh, shall I read another poem or just keep talking about what else happened in my life?
yeah, you just chat away, and I will
Oh,
find find this bad boy.
well, I worked. I submitted poems, and then got a job in a library, and then my son was born, and I needed to stop doing the full time work. And eventually, the magazine for whom I volunteered hired me to be an editor. So, and that's what I did for about 23 years. And Brilliant Star, I'll show you that too, because it's a beautiful magazine. This is a cover from before I left.
It's an impressive magazine.
It is beautiful.
I
Everything,
mean,
I think.
highlights don't have anything on Brilliant Star. I'll tell you.
Hmm. Well, I like that it helps children discover their maybe secret qualities that they don't even know. They're good qualities like generosity and kindness and love, and it helps reinforce those things in children. And if we're going to have a society that cares about one another, it's good to start young.
I'm pulling it up as a PDF right now. That way it'll present a little better on screen. Um, but which one do you think it is? I'll let you guess.
Oh, which one you like? I
Yeah,
have
I'll
no
let you
idea. Is it the first one, Hooray for Skin?
know.
No,
It
it
was
is.
written in 2018 by Susan
I'm sorry, you're
Engle.
breaking up. It's written what?
In 2018 by Susan Engle. Uh, no clue yet.
I didn't. I still can't hear you. You keep breaking up, my friend.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
I'll take my headphones off. Maybe that'll help.
Okay.
It usually does better with the headphones, but apparently it's not working right now.
Well,
So,
I don't know. So give me the clue again.
it was written in 2018, and it was by you, and it is constant.
Constant. Well, I haven't written anything in 2018. I mean, the whole site was copyrighted in 2018, but I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Help me out here, fella.
Let me share. If I can share. Chat box. There should be a chat box.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
If I can. I think my computer is just too slow for all this action.
For all this stuff. I've got
That's
I am
why
here. so I could find it if yeah, with a title.
That's why I need 3 computers to do anything.
Okay.
There it is. It broke it up, it looks like, but
Oh, a rock is patient. Okay. It's just showing a little piece of it.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's there must be some sort of a filter setting. But I'll try it again. There, that should. If I do it in private, it shouldn't do that.
Those are actually the lyrics from a song on the first album.
No, it did it anyways. We're just gonna have to work on this infrastructure problem we're having.
Sure. I like experimenting.
But that was my favorite out of. I can't say that I read every single one of them, but that's the one that stood out the most to me and that I really enjoyed. So,
Well, good. I'm glad. I can read it.
what is your? Do you
Oh my,
have a favorite of your?
well. Um, it's like which is your favorite child, you know?
Well, if I had children, I think it would be pretty easy to choose. The
You?
I I'm just guessing, but there's just always that
Uh,
one child, that's just like, oh man,
well,
I
I
love my I love my dog. I'm happy with him. So
okay, and you only have one, so it's easy.
yeah.
Um, I don't know. I really like the Crimson Balloon. I wrote it for, at her request. I can do that one by heart. I think it's kind of sad, but here it is, the Crimson Balloon. Oh, the man in the moon loved a sweet red balloon who lived on the shore by the sea. Do come nigh, oh come near, Crimson dear. Oh, nope, nope, nope. I'm gonna have to look at the words.
Oh,
Because, being 70 and all. Here we go. I'll start again. Oh, the man in the moon loved a sweet red balloon who lived on the shore by the sea. Do come nigh, oh come near, wooed the moon. Crimson dear, your string now and come marry me. Oh, balloon red and sweet, cried the clams at her feet. Take care, for you weren't meant to fly. But the crimson balloon loved the man in the moon and raced off to the star-sprinkled sky. I'm untied now, I'm free, and I'll soon marry thee, cried sweet Crimson, as faster she leapt. But her love and the height burst her heart in mid-flight. The moon gathered her fragments and wept. Oh, the man in the moon loves his sweet red balloon. He sings songs to the sun of her light. And in autumn, the moon, longing for his balloon, hovers low and turns red in the night.
yours is much more in depth than the ones that I have memorized. And, I have like oh Captain, my Captain, our fever
Mm,
full one. The ship has weathered every wreck. The prize we sought is won. I'm gonna grab a notebook. Excuse me, I'll be right here.
okay.
Oh, it was behind me all along. So,
It's
um,
funny when you get up, I can see the pond behind you.
well, if you,
Oh, you've been sitting in the water all this time.
if you want to see a trick, there's there's a trick where I can turn. This is a green wall behind me right now. Very, very green. Now, something else I wanted to ask you about. Um, since this is your anniversary as a Baha'i, um, so what do you think has changed the most in the last? What do you say, 49 years now? What do you think has changed the most, and what do you think has remained constant? And um, yeah,
In the community and the
in the community and the just the organization of the world community, the local spiritual assemblies, how we associate with non-Baha'is, how we associate with, I mean, some of these I kind of know the answers to, but I'd like your opinion on how you've seen the faith grow over time, you know?
well, when I first became a Baha'i, the faith was almost never in the news. It wasn't until the Iranian Revolution at the end of the 70s that um, people like my father started reading articles about the faith, seeing things in the newspaper because it was pretty obscure at the time. But today, you can access, of course, the internet helps access all the facts about the faith. And there's so much out there that people can find to tell them who Baha'u'llah was and what he said. Um, the community it's always been a refuge and a loving place to be forever and ever. It was harder to become a Baha'i in the olden days because the local spiritual assembly, which is the local governing body, there's no clergy, um, so the people who help administer the faith are elected in localities where there are 9 Baha'is or more. And when I first started, people were getting used to how to be a loving parent to a community, and it was a little more strict than it is now. I mean, people had an idea in their head that they had to be like a father and kind of stern, you know, to administer things to the community. And now it's evolved. It's much more. It's definitely still a family feeling, but it's much more unconditional love feeling than it was. And that was just my experience. The institutions of the faith are evolving and changing and becoming their own true selves over time. And it's because Baha'is evolve over time. Our understanding of the faith and what Baha'u'llah has said changes as time goes on. We understand more and more. The more we think about it, the more we pray, the more we understand the world. The institutions reflect that. And we're growing up. So,
That's the
yay,
point is it's continual growth and revelation, and it's, that's what I love about it.
me too.
Yeah, it's unfortunate about Iran. I'm not sure how many people viewing this in the future are going to be aware of what's going on with Iran and but
Well, persecutions of Baha'i started a very long time ago when the Bab was, in the 1800s, the messenger of God who was called the Bab, which means the gate, appeared in Persia and Iran. And the government, he caused the news of his coming caused so much furor, so much excitement among the people in Iran that the government and the clergy were very unhappy. They didn't want things to change. They wanted things to be the same, even though they were waiting for the promised one of Islam, the promised Qayyam. They still, when the time came to acknowledge that this is happening, they didn't want to lose their authority over the people. So the Bab um, the followers of the Bab were killed by the thousands. At least 20,000 Babis were killed because of the fear of the government and the clergy in Iran. And it got a little better over time. The Shah, actually, as the Shahs began to um, rule Iran, or maybe they had for a long time, but they knew Baha'is, and Baha'is were trusted in their eyes. It was only there was fear out there from lack of understanding, because wherever Baha'is are, they are patriotic. They obey their governments. They don't try to overthrow anything. They want to support what is happening in a country and the people therein. So, but again, when the revolution happened in the 70s, 79, 70, the fear was ingrained again, the people in Iran were told that the Baha'is were untouchable, and that they meant to overtake the government, and they had spies somewhere. It was all things to help people be afraid of the Baha'is. So many Baha'is left Iran and came, across the United States and around the world. But there are still hundreds of thousands of Baha'is still there. And as time goes on, they are imprisoned and tortured, and things are not better for the Baha'is in Iran right now. It's
One thing I'd
really
like to
hard
touch
to.
on that you said the about Baha'is not being against their central governments and whatnot. I think it's more just to clarify that it's because of a Baha'i perspective of consultation, and that through consultation, the right way, the right path will come about eventually through kind of a trial and error sort of thing. It's not that we allow things to happen, it's that through a consultation, things are revealed to us through God, and that's the way I understand it. And it's not like we're just laying down and letting it happen to us, So
Well,
I didn't mean to interrupt.
oh no, that's fine. I like the talking about consultation, and the whole idea is that even if an assembly consults and comes to the wrong decision, when everyone supports it, find out that it's not the right decision for them, and then they can change, evaluate and change. So it's not like we always understand the right thing right away. But when everyone works together um, to enact whatever it is the local assembly is asking of us, then it's pretty clear soon whether it's a good decision or not. So that's what I love about the faith, is that people support one another and then find out the truth through whatever happens. So we're evaluating, learning all the time.
I'm trying to find a picture right now. I'm trying to not be distracted, but I'm trying to find a picture. I found a wonderful picture. I wanted to get into your book, your Dizzy Gillespie book.
Oh, okay.
Put in a little plug in there for you, you know. For,
Well, I've got it right here.
oh yeah, I was gonna say you probably just hold it up.
Oh, there it is. Dizzy. That's the newest one. Whoops, I can't seem to get it straight. There we go.
I don't know where I put my copy of it, but and then I also had a very nice little collection of your tiny books. And if you want to get into your tiny books, I think they're fantastic.
Oh,
I kind of dropped the ball. That's my fault. But several months ago, I was supposed to order several hundred, and I forgot. um, well, things happened, and then things got crazy. But anyway, you gotta. I'll have to email you later, or a couple hundred tiny books from you.
well, I've got them. If you need them.
Anybody, why don't you explain to the folks, anybody that sees this later, about what your tiny books are and how fantastic they are?
Well, the inspiration came from two special people in the Baha'i faith. They were called Hands of the Cause of God, which is a designation that was given to them as people who were self-sacrificing and traveled and taught the faith around the world. And one of them uh, ran the Baha'i Publishing Trust in the United States in the early 1900s. And he came up with a little book smaller than this, and he called him the Little Ben. It had a 9 on the cover, and inside was a lot of information about the faith. And when Martha Root, who was another hand of the cause of God, responded to the call of the central figure of the faith at that time, which was the son of Baha'u'llah, his name was Abdul Baha, to go and travel around the world and tell people about the faith. Roy Wilhelm, who had published these tiny books, gave her lots and lots of them, and she could pack them into her suitcase because she didn't take much. She would take a change of clothes and a typewriter and lots of little books so that when she met people, she would have something to give them. Because, in those days, there was no internet. There was no way to have the words of Baha'u'llah or anything about his teachings without something to hand them physically. So she had these tiny books, and in 2017, when I was getting ready to retire from Brilliant Star, I longed to have a project to tide me over, a creative project, because when you work every day for a magazine doing creative things, it was hard to think about not doing that anymore. So I remembered the tiny book and decided to make it a little more narrative than I remembered the original, although I hadn't seen it for a long time. And so I prayed about it over time. And one morning I woke up, I was ready, I sat down, and the whole tiny book pretty much just came out. And that, once a year, the Baha'is get together to elect a national body called the National Spiritual Assembly. And it was 2017, as I mentioned, and Mr. Wilhelm had made the first Little Ben tiny book in 1917 and gave it to the people who gathered for the convention in that year. And I thought, well, maybe the delegates would like a copy of this new tiny book this year. And indeed, each delegate was gifted a tiny book, the introduction. And so it's helped people just hand someone something that they can read on their own. And I'll tell you, because it's tiny, people don't look at it and go, "Oh, I don't think so. I don't want one of these." The reaction has been very different. People like tiny things, and so they've been very successful. And I love them because they're tiny. And then after that came the tiny prayer book, Tiny Book of Prayers. I don't know if you can really tell the cover. Oh yeah, there it is. It has a little acorn.
I'm trying to add. I have photos of them up close. I'm trying to add them, and I can't seem to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
So I don't like this program.
What?
I don't like this program.
Oh, well, we're.
I muted you.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
I'm trying.
Try a different program another day.
Let me try to copy and paste it into the comments. How about that?
Copy and paste. Oh, sure.
And it'll take them to your website. So.
Oh my gosh.
We're just plugging it away. This is as good as.
Oh, you're digging into the page of the.
You're on
That,
Letterman. You're on Letterman right now. You know.
well, if they just go to iambicnana.com, www.iambicnana.com, there's a tab that says tiny books. So that's a huge
Yeah.
URL.
Well, I copied and pasted it from Google Images, so that's probably why it's so long.
Yeah, but people can't click on it. They'd have to remember that whole thing.
And they are available in Spanish now too, correct?
Right. Yeah, the Baha'i Faith introduction is some friends of mine translated it. I don't speak that much Spanish, so but I just had it printed.
Like I said, if as a testimony for anybody that out there watching that is interested in these, if I can pull it out here, like here's my prayer one. My other one's in my jeans, but I keep the prayer one in my little wallet, and it's this very nice, like I don't know what kind of paper that is. It some sort of artisanal paper.
It's
It's
embossed.
very
Embossed.
fancy paper, but
Yeah, very easy.
um, they hold up quite well in my wallet. It has all the prayers that I need in it. You know, um, it has. I mean, when I was in the hospital last week, I mean, it had this short healing prayer, which I memorized very fast with the help of this book. You know, it has your afternoon, your short obligatory for children, for aid and assistance, for uniting others. It's just very well put together, and I really enjoyed the tiny introduction because I had it sitting on my bedside table in the hospital, and like the nurses kept asking me about my necklace and things like that, and you know, I was like, hey, just read this on your break, bring it back, you know, you'll. That's very interesting. You know, anytime I anytime I can say a word about the faith, I try to. You know, it's just makes me feel better at least. Oh, and I thought you were there, and I had you cut off the whole time.
It's okay. We're learning here, fella.
I'm gonna have to hire some sort of an editor or something. We're gonna have to do the Rainn Wilson thing, and we're just gonna have to do
Just the audio. Yeah.
yeah, and then we can wear sweatpants and pajamas if we want to, you know.
Truly true.
Yeah. So, let me double check. I know it's getting late, but I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything else that I really wanted to ask you because I had so much I wanted to ask you because I have so much respect for you and I love you so much. And I think it's great that everybody else gets to experience you as well. So I just want to run through these notes real fast, make sure I didn't miss anything that I really wanted to touch on. Um, and that's really she's wonderful. She's wonderful. Uh, yeah, I cannot think of anything else. I think we covered everything that I wanted to cover. Oh, we didn't really touch too much on your new books, though, did we? The um,
What?
Robert Abbott, and then,
Mhm.
or did you talk about that? Was I distracted?
No, we didn't get that far, but it's all good.
But Dizzy Gillespie and the Robert was it Sting Stable Abbott?
Sangstack Abbott, right? Who
Um,
what? Who started the Chicago Defender, which was a voice for African Americans, in the first part of this century. And really, you can still get it online. You can see it online, but the actual paper is no longer published.
so,
But he was
so
a
what
what?
age range would you suggest that those are good for? So
Well, middle school, late. elementary. So 9 to 12, sort
Because
of.
I was actually considering getting them for my niece. She'll be in fifth grade, and I thought that that might be a good book report or something along those lines for her, or something that she might get
Yeah.
into. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you know this about where I'm located. I don't know if we're allowed to tell the Twitter, YouTube universe where we are or not, but Richmond, Indiana has a thing for Dizzy Gillespie down in the it's the birthplace of recorded jazz music. The Star Piano Factory. They have a jazz fest every year. It
Yeah.
is the first and it was the first place where they allowed African Americans to record music.
Wow.
Um, and they have a big festival every year. I'm not too familiar with Robert Abbott, but I know a lot of those other gentlemen are very. They have like a walk of fame. It's very interesting.
Yeah. They just happen to be Baha'is who contributed a lot to the culture. So that's why they were chosen for the series.
Right, right. But I was going to the music part of it.
The music, yes, yes. Oh, Dizzy, he was a personality like no other. And luckily, you can see him. There's a lot of video out there of Dizzy performing and talking between songs. And, yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Everybody loved Dizzy.
Well, I will let you get to bed. I know it's getting late. Um, well, not for you. It's not getting late, but for me.
Okay.
Real
Well,
quick, real quick, before we get off of here,
yes, yes.
could you show everyone your little miniatures? Can you reach that far?
You mean take the computer out to the miniature place?
Or can you reach them from there?
I would have to unplug it, but I could take it.
Well, you don't have to go through all that.
Okay.
I just want everybody to see how amazing and intricate, and
Um,
they're just so adorable and cute. They're just fantastic. We can do that another time, though. So.
okay. Well, here's a chicken. You want to see a tiny chicken?
Oh yeah, chicken.
Chicken. Very tiny. Oops, backwards. It's
Oh,
tiny. It's hard to hold.
cracked his egg, huh?
It's not that I have a thing for chickens, but I love that little chicken.
All right. Well, tell the family I said hi, and I hope them all the best. And I
Okay.
hope everybody gets to feeling better. And I
Thanks.
thank you very much for talking to me for so long. And I hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you, darling. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.